Today I want to do an experiment with my dehydrators. I have 2 of them. I want to dehydrate. I want to cook first and then dehydrate rice, just a long grain parboiled rice, because that's the rice I prefer in my everyday life. And I have a gluten-free corn and rice elbow macaroni, because I do have to eat gluten-free, and quinoa that I'm going to pre-cook, and want to see how these perform on the trail and in the rehydrating process. Quinoa, I'm going to time it and see how long it takes to cook initially, and then see how long it takes to cook on the trail, because right here on the package it says it should take 15 minutes to cook. That's a lot of fuel if you're, out on the trails and you put too much water in or whatever, because I don't carry measuring devices with me as such. I have a 500 ml bottle, and I fill it or half fill it, and that's as good as it gets. So that's a cup or 2 cups. This is a gluten-free product. This is a gluten-free product. And rice, regular rice, is a gluten-free product. Once you start putting packaged companies put in cheese sauces and Alfredo sauces, then the flavorings may not be gluten-free, but rice itself is gluten-free, and I need to have these gluten-free products in order to feel well while I'm on the trail. I try to incorporate them in my regular daily diet, but I do tend to cheat because my symptoms are not as severe as some people's symptoms. I end up with inflammation and swollen glands and painful aching. Oh my goodness, the pain in my joints. I don't have the digestive symptoms that some people have, but I'm also fortunate I don't get the rash that my daughter gets. Celiac disease and gluten or wheat and gluten intolerance shows up with so many symptoms. Okay, the timer says 6:24 from 10, so 3.5 minutes, and my quinoa is starting to boil. I am going to just stir it down, and that, like I said, 3.5 minutes. I'm going to stir it down and reduce it to a simmer. That's that burner right there. Reduce it down to a simmer, and my rice, I stirred it down once, as I like to normally do it. Before it comes to a boil, I stir it down and leave it. And once it does start to boil, I'll just make sure there's nothing stuck to the bottom with a simple quick little stir. And I'll turn that down to a simmer as well. The parboiled rice takes about 20 minutes. I really, really don't like minute rice, so that's why I'm doing it this way. It's just a texture preference, I guess. And is that going to cool off? I have some thick bottom pots, so sometimes it takes a minute for them to reduce their heat. And the water is coming to a boil shortly for the pasta. I'll be back with you again in a minute. Oh, and look, there we go. That took me one. Okay, I'm back. It has been 3.5 minutes, and now my rice is boiling. It is a thicker bottom pot. And I'm going to stir that down, just make sure there's nothing sticking, and turn down that temperature to a simmer. We'll see what that looks like in a few minutes. And now my pasta water is coming to a full boil. And again, no salt on this. I have nothing in there, no oil, no salt, nothing, because that's just the way I cook. And I don't measure. I've been doing this long enough that I don't have to really be precise about it. You can measure if you're just learning, but you learn after a while. It doesn't take long. And a quick stir of the quinoa, make sure it's not sticking. Oh, I don't know if you can get that on the video or not. Let me see if I bring this up. Some of the grains are going to start to go translucent. They're not as white as they were. And I don't see in this image, oh, there might be, you can see some of the tails are starting to release. Bottom right hand corner of that forkful, there's a tail releasing. They start to unwind as if they were sprouting in like a paper towel in water sprouting kind of thing. They are, it's a grain. So that's what it's going to do. I haven't been able to get a timer going in any other way, but here we are down to 3 minutes remaining of that 10-minute timer. As soon as it is done, it'll beep at me. I will reset it for an additional 5 minutes just for timing. All right, be back soon. less than a minute left on my timer. That was set originally for 10 minutes. My rice, I think I turned it down too low. It is not really doing much, so I've turned it back up a tiny bit to get that simmer happening. My timing on that rice might be off. There's my timer. Let's reset that for 5 additional minutes. Oh. There we go. The pasta is boiling vigorously. Let me have a peek at that. I'll have to let one cool and see if it's, it feels like it's still pretty firm. The quinoa, I just had a little tiny taste of that and it feels like it's nearly done. So that was only 10 minutes and the package says 15. The water is almost entirely boiled up. I'll just leave that for a few minutes and see where it goes. It's still turned on to simmer, so I'll just keep stirring the top layer in to the into the moist layer so that I don't have a dry crusty top. And the simmer is starting to come back on that rice. Okay, and pasta, it's ready. I gotta take that off now, and we're down to 1 minute, so 10 plus 1, 11 minutes for my pasta from start to cooked. Okay, less than a minute again, so that brings us nearly to 15 minutes. The rice is still not ready. And the quinoa, well, let me see. The water's almost completely boiled off. I don't know if you can get a simmer this low on some of the stoves out there. So, especially if you're using an alcohol stove or a wood-burning stove that doesn't have an actual control. Let me see how this dries. It's still got a bit of a texture to it. And there's our 15-minute mark. I'm going to call it done. The dehydrator is going to be a few minutes. It's going to be ready to go. That pot of pasta I had, what do you do with all the water when you are done boiling it? I suppose you could boil it with just a very minimal amount of water, and here's the box here. I suppose you could just boil it with a little bit of water and put your sauce mix or cheese mix or whatever it is that you want to right into it. But I'm hoping that this way might save that having to drain the pasta. We'll see. It's an interesting experiment for me because I've never done this before. And if I can share this, then someone else may learn from this experience as well. And that's what my intentions are. Back in a bit. Okay, so here we go again. I'm now past 5 minutes of recording. I'm going to take my cooked pasta and I'm going to put it into my favorite serving dish. I'm going to use a measuring cup so I can estimate how much each serving is once it's dried. Oh, let me see. I'm making a mess here. I will be the only one eating this, but for those of you who are maybe possibly germaphobes and might be watching and considering going on the trail with me, I am using a fresh fork. This is not the fork I put in my mouth with the quinoa, just because. So that's 1 cup of pasta, and it's not full, but I would certainly want vegetables in there, and my spaghetti sauce. I might put in another ½ cup for my... You're on the trail. You want to eat. What can I get here? That's about ½ cup. That's 1½ cups of pasta. Cooked. Already cooked. So here we go. I'm going to put my dehydrator tray and parchment paper that you just use for baking. And I just fold it in half, trace to half of the circle, cut out the center so that the air flows. And I will move this around. I'll be back to that in a second. But again, so that I'm not videotaping as I putz away with the pasta smoothing process. And there's my approximately ½ cup of quinoa. And how does that look in a bowl? It's about the same, or 1 cup, sorry. It's about the same. Quinoa is more filling. I won't need any more than that. I may not even finish all of that. So 1 cup is plenty, and it looks like I might have a cup in there. So my rice is done, and you've seen rice before. Once you get this process and you figure out how this works, it's not a big deal. And you just spread it out. Try to put it in a layer that's reasonably flat. You don't want it heaped up. Like this would not dry properly. It would be all stuck together, and then your pasta would end up breaking and not be pleasant. And gluten-free pasta can be tricky on a good day. So we'll see how this rides. So you want to put it in a flat layer. Hopefully not too many of them are wrapped up with each other and touching. I don't care if my pasta's broken. I can eat it with a spoon on the trail and I won't be worried. We'll see how it goes. The quinoa, I'm curious how that. I'll just spread that out the same way on the parchment paper, sort of like this, just so that it's spread out. You can see that it's got space between some of the grains, but this is so tiny. This will probably dehydrate very quickly. Some dehydrators, you may find the bottom dries faster than the top, or the top, vice versa. Watch it, and if it's possible, at 4 hours, switch the trays up. Every 2 hours, switch the trays up. Whatever works for you. I dried some pea soup on a parchment just a few days ago, and it took me 2 days. I probably could have boiled it on the stove and made it a little more dry, but it turned out fantastic. And I, had to watch for some thick spots so that it didn't turn sour during the drying process. I rehydrated a sample and it turned out fantastic. I had large chunks of ham, probably the size of my baby finger. So less than a centimeter by a centimeter before they went on the tray. Next time I do pea soup, I will do bacon bits. Pull out the ham chunks, cook it with the ham maybe, but then pull out the ham chunks and throw pea soup or bacon bits in it and dry that whole darn thing together, because bacon would be really darn good in my pea soup. All right, so I will go through this process and I will probably make a part 2 so that we can see how it rehydrates and get 2 different approaches to this idea. One is the dehydrating process and one is the rehydrating process. That's it. Have fun, guys, and you know what? Get out! Hey there, guys. Just a follow-up to my dehydrator pasta, quinoa, and rice video. I have my favorite container here. I get these at the dollar store for $3. Now the lid is made of plastic, so I don't use it as a boiling lid, but it's great for keeping the heat in for rehydrating. I don't have a cozy right now, or I would be using a cozy as well. I've just taken and measured out a cup of water, 2 cups of water, and marked the side of my container. If those wear off, I can mark them in again, but after a while you'll learn that it holds 3 cups. What's 1/3 of the container? I'm going to go grab my boiling kettle, and I will be right back. Okay, I'm back. When I dehydrated these, when I measured them to put them in the dehydrator, I measured each serving to be about 1.5 cups, because when I'm on the trail, I am hungry and I really like my rice. So I'm going to pour this in to bring it up to the level of 1.5 cups for displacement. Just 2 seconds, I'll be right back. Okay, so there I've poured my water, and I've grabbed something I can wrap around. It's a little terry towel, like a shop towel, from the automotive department of the Canadian Tire. Here, and I think you can get them $1 now too. I'm just going to stir in the rice and water so that it's separating and it gets all of the grains. Well, it's already starting to soften. It takes 20 minutes from cold water and rice to finished. So I've got this going. I haven't set a timer yet, but I'm looking at the time on my camera here is less than 2 minutes. So I'm going to wrap that and cozy that, and I will come back in 5 minutes and see what we've got. Hang on. Okay, 5 minutes has passed. I had a timer set, so that would bring this to about 6.5 minutes altogether. I had it, I don't know if you saw that or not. I had it all wrapped up in this little towel, just folded it around it to cozy it. Let me see what we can get. Can I get the lid off with one hand? Not likely. Hang on a minute. Ouch, hot! Okay, there we go. That's been 5 minutes. It's definitely not absorbed all that water. I'm going to give it a texture test here and see how firm they are or softened they are. Here we go. Oh no, it needs longer. They're crunchy still. So 5 minutes isn't bad. Let me set the timer again and see what we get. Okay, here we go again. Oh, silly mama. Take off the lid first. The timer's still beeping in the background. That has been 10 minutes now. I have to test this to see if it's softened. Okay, that is edible soft now. I apparently put too much water on it. We'll see, you know, if you had cheese sauce in there, a powdered cheese sauce mix, or any vegetables, dehydrated vegetables, or any of the dehydrated tomato sauce, that would absorb more of the water. And I have done, as my experiment in the first video showed, I've got my quinoa, I've got, I've got pasta. I've done some tomato sauce. I am not really impressed with the way my dehydrators are doing the tomato sauce. I've done chili before and now the tomato sauce, and they come out tasting scorched. I wonder if the temperature's too high. I do have two dehydrators. One has a fan component in it that I figured would be best for this. I think it gets hotter. The one that has no fan is a very, very slow process, but it might be the one to work on the tomato sauce products, because that scorch flavor, it makes me feel like I'm a, you know, gives the impression that I'm a bad cook, and I'm not. So I don't know. I'll have to figure that one out. It's a dehydrator experiment. This I've got is red peppers, green peppers, and yellow peppers, all dehydrated. A little bit of celery in there too, because I had a couple of stalks of celery sitting around. Now it's come out clearly green and red, but these brown bits is from the yellow peppers. So I don't know if I'll do yellow peppers again, because it's not so appetizing to have some of these brown chunks in your rice. It might be fine in chili or something because you wouldn't notice, but I think I prefer to have just the red and the green. I don't think that they offer that much flavor variety. I will be picking up freeze-dried onions and freeze-dried garlic from the grocery store, because dehydrating those in my house, yeah, you don't want to do it. The peppers, if you try to dehydrate hot peppers, you are going to have your eyes burning out of your face. So you just stick to the mild ones. And the tomato sauce, honestly, it smelled like vomit while it was drying. So you may not want to do that, a whole lot of that one. I don't know if they have seasoning mixes for those yet. But I have food allergies, so I have to watch the sulfites and the mushroom contents and stuff like that. So we'll see how it goes from here. And gluten. So that's it. I think my rice needs to be put on the stove to boil, but I can do that, and that should absorb the last bit of that. And that timer is still going off, beeping in the background. I'm going to take care of that right now. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and leave a comment in the comment section below. Thanks. Bye.